and welcome back to the African History Classroom after 8 long days. And yes, I'm back on the attack. And boy, there's a lot to attack. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. So, I've had some long thoughts about changing my presentation and exactly how I go about continuing to do this. To my audience who only sees me once in a while now, I must admit to the fact that I don't have the technology in my possession right now to be more efficient, to broadcast more, to include more information to make and satisfy your interests. So as such, I'm on a transition, not a transformation, but a transition from one type of media or technological media types. I'm not good with these new things, but I'm learning. I'm trying to get there, and trying to transition to a more expedient and more, or should I say, better equipment that makes it more expedient for me to get information out to you. As right now, I'm kind of working in the dinosaur world with what I have, and as a result, it's affecting my ability to broadcast and produce information for you. So I'm working on transitioning from the prehistoric days to the modern days with my equipment, and that is my sort of apology for not being here more often. And unfortunately, that's the way it's going to be. So if you still love my content, and please tap in when I am here. But for the foreseeable future, I will try to provide my content with the equipment that I have. But please remember, if you don't see me in a few days, I'm trying to upgrade myself. Now, I hope by June that I'll have my new equipment, and then I will become much more prodigious here. You will see a lot more of me. Moreover, you'll see me bringing in other comment, bringing other people into this format, having conversations, lectures from other folks that I can include into my broadcast. And that is my ultimate goal. But unfortunately, right now, I'm not able to do that. So you're going to get me and so much and what I have to give you. Now, for those who remember, I was working on the American Revolution, which I've now begun to call it something else after tapping into another seemingly great historian, and who's been doing this work longer than even me. But I should say he's been doing it not just longer than me. I should say in more of a doctoral, sense, meaning that this particular historian is a doctor, has a doctorate in American Revolution and colonial times, specifically for that, where I don't have that. But of course, I taught it for 20 years, and I sort of call myself a historian in that regard, and that's based on my research and the things I've accomplished, my degrees. But this person that I am tapping into now has gone a little deeper than I have gone, and I'm going to rest on his shoulders for about a month. And some of the things I'm saying are things that I have quoted from him, learned through his visiting his sites, and I will give him due justice and say his name when it requires it. So I want to make sure I'm giving him his love, as we say in the hood, for providing me with more information to broadcast to you. Good. Now, if that makes any sense, hopefully it does. So let's get on with it. So my topic for now on for the next couple of weeks, hopefully, and it might change, but I'm going to, and I said this in the beginning, I'm going to be looking at the American Revolution, the Declaration of Independence, and of course, our goal is to make it to the quincentennial, the semi-quincentennial, the 250-year anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, which was forwarded to us through the American Revolution. I think I got it. Sometimes you're not on a lot. You have to get this language together. So we're going to still be moving in that vein, talking about the founding fathers and their, as you can see, faking, phoniness, and foolery. We're going to talk about what they did because what you are seeing in the form of Donald Trump has been designed to be that way. For those of you who are wondering how could we be in this mess without democratic institutions, well, like me and the rest of us, we have been fooled. We have been fooled by these fakers, these phonies who call themselves the founding fathers, who put us in this mess. We have to begin to realize, folks, that what we are in, we're not going to get out of very easily because of the entrenchment or the established documents like the Constitution, which are pretty much carrying this march toward fascism. The Constitution, written in its current form, has allowed these things to be perpetrated on us as a democracy, as a people of this democracy, alleged democracy. And as such, we have to find a way using the Constitution, much as these nationalists and these racists have been, using the Constitution in our own way to figure out a way out of this madness. So today we're going to start off with talking about a few things, and I'm going to use my wife as the motivating factor here because she said to me the other day, listening to all of this stuff going on, how in the world is Donald Trump still the president? And that's a simple but profound question. It really is. Now, through that, we're going to examine some of the Constitution, not today, but we're going to look into articles, the 3 articles that regulate our presidency and our political system, Article 1, 2, and 3. We're going to look at those articles as they relate to president and some of the things he's trying to do, so you might be able to get a better grip on how he's able to do some things and hopefully why he can't do others. So the phonies, fakers, and fools is a very good description of the founding fathers because the first thing is these fathers are not our fathers. Okay? They are far from being fathers. And from any way that you can twist this, they are not daddies. And it's important to note that any of them who were fathers through biological reproduction, most of those people, whoever they were, might be our brothers and sisters, particularly when you look at Thomas Jefferson. All right? All right. So I say phonies, I say fake because they faked us out. Like on a basketball court, you go for the dribble and we're faked out. How, Professor Hicks? Well, we're faked out because religiously the Christian right and evangelical Christians who have supported this man are not telling or providing us with a true reading and interpretation of the Bible. It's a fake. It's not evangelical Christians are not following the Bible, but they are faking us into believing they are. They can't be in line with Christ. Christ did not teach murder. Christ did not teach deception. These things are what they have interpreted to be. They are phonies because what they said is not what they believe. Now, but do you know that most of our presidents were deists? They were deists. They did not believe in the Christian or the Christianity that you and I, or some of us, did believe in. They are fools because they thought that they were going to pull the wolves over our eyes and we be the fools, but we're waking up. Thankfully to the internet. The internet is much like the printing press that evolved and was created in Europe. And when that press broke out, it began to do what press should do, inform people. So these fathers were the fakers, the fools. Some of them were, I can call them foreigners, but they were the ones who created this constitution, this institution that we try to call democracy that never lived up to it, and left us in this big mess that we're in right now. But in order to understand that, we got to understand a few things. This is where this historian, he's a wonderful man, Tad Starr. I'll give you his name later. I don't want to screw it up. He has posited some things that makes one wonder. The first thing really that shook me was that this was not an American Revolution, but it was a war. It was a war. Now, he mentioned Ken Burns, and what he did mention about Ken Burns, not critically, but it is something to observe. Because if you've watched Ken Burns' documentary, The American Revolution, yes, it tells you about the American Revolution, but mainly it discusses the wars, the battles, the fights, the conflicts. But it doesn't give you much more than that. So it should be named the American Revolutionary War, because Tad Stammer says that the revolution, as far as that was concerned, was accomplished well before 1776 in the minds of people who lived in this country then. Let me be a little clearer. The population that existed in 1600 to the 1700s, those people had experienced a revolution before 1776. And this revolution occurred in many ways. First, we have to think about direct democracy. That was the original plan and the original use of political bodies and political activity. The direct democracy. Please look some of this stuff up because I don't have the ability to define all of this stuff. Then we talk about, as a revolution, remember, not the war of revolution, but the ideal of revolution. And again, Tad Stammer brought this up. And that's something to think about. The land-owning elites. This was already established before the Revolutionary War, before 1776. Established. So the war and the revolution have these differences. The slave codes were established before 1776 and became more harsher, if there's such a word, after 1776, after the union of the colonies into states and a nation. Revolution versus war. Whiteness, and the term white and white supremacy was already established before the revolution, before 1776, had already been, as I mentioned before, not only established in word, deed, and through ideal, but became written, coded restrictions and laws. That is revolutionary. Whites who came to this country as, or should I say Irish, Scottish, German, who came to this country as Irish, Scottish, German in the 17th century became white. Created here in our great democracy, alleged. So this was truly the revolution. This was the revolution. The war only helped solidify the independence. But the ideals of revolution were here and very well implanted in the American psyche, no matter who you were, native, African slave or enslaved and free, white, indentured or free, and women, white women, indentured or free. These things, these revolutionary ideas were already well implanted. So where was the revolution? Well, the real revolution was probably only the independence that the nation gained from its mother country, England. So let that sink in a while. But before we do that, we need to understand something else that Ted Starmer talks about, which had me thinking for the last few days. And it's so true because I tried to wrap this up in a few broadcasts. And we're going to leave it at this and because I don't want to go over to my time today. But I tried to wrap this up in the last broadcast, but I will hopefully tomorrow. But I'm going to give you a part to think about. Something that he calls the Patriot myth. Look it up. The Patriot myth. Because the revolution was based on the Patriot myth. Freedom. Freedom from Great Britain. What is the Patriot myth? What is the Patriot myth? They said patriotism was freedom. They said patriotism was democracy. This is what the Patriots say, not Professor Higgs. And of course, they said patriotism was independence from the mother country. But that's not what it seems to be. Because when the revolution ended, what do we have? We had wealthy, elitist landowners. We had a constitution that protect the economic interests of these elites. We had the expansion and enslavement of African people. And then we had the possession of native lands. All of this happened as a result of the American Revolution and as the American, as you call it, revolution was going on. So let me give you a definition that I have garnered and put together of the patriotic myth. The patriotic myth is a simplified, heroic story. Yeah. A simplified, heroic story of the American Revolution that portrays the colonial patriots, yes, those are the people that moved here, as unified freedom fighters battling pure tyranny while minimizing the contributions or the contradictions like slavery, class conflict, indigenous displacement, and divided loyalties. Okay? So let me give this to you one more time, more coherent. The patriotic myth, this is what I want you to think about until our next broadcast, is a simplified heroic story of the American Revolution that portrays the colonial patriots as unified freedom fighters battling pure tyranny in the form of British aggression while minimizing, and I would say omitting, contradictions like slavery, class conflict, indigenous displacement, and divided loyalties. Most Americans who lived during this period did not support the American Revolution. And with that, we're going to pick up on this topic again, and I will promise you see you tomorrow. But with only these types of discussions involved. We're not going to move to Trump or anything else. But we're going to stay focused on this American Revolution and how it compares to what we're going through or how it has affected what we are going through today as Americans. And I do consider myself an American, an African American, but an American nonetheless. This is my country as much as it is those who claim to be nationalists and patriots and whatever else they want to consider themselves. I've lost count. We got the Proud Boys, you got this one, and there's just so many of them. But I am an American as well, and most of you are. I'm pretty sure you claim to be so. But we're going to continue on this subject tomorrow. We're going to stay focused, laser focused on this American Revolution, much like this historian that I'm watching, and love what he's doing. I love his content. All right, so remember, do some homework. The revolution was already in place, and the revolution was the direct democracy, the landowning elites, the slave codes, and white as a legal term. That was revolutionary. The war, like Ken Burns displayed, were battles and conflicts. And with that said, folks, dig in. I'll see you tomorrow. I am aware that we have the week off, and I might be able to potentially increase my viewership based on the fact that people are home this week, particularly people who are part of municipal working and part of this, for those in social institutions, you're off for a week, and educational institutions specifically. All right, so see you then. Hope to see you tomorrow. And like I say,